be upon him, will descend from the heavens with his hands resting on the wings of two angels. At that time when he comes down, it would be as he came the first time. The first time that he came in front of his cousin, John the Baptist, alayhi salam. And the divine wisdom ordained that John would say, here he is. This is the man you've been waiting for. This is the Messiah. And so a method of positive identification. And so history repeats itself when he comes back. When he comes back, he'll come back before another similarly divinely appointed individual who would be a worldly leader, while the Son of Mary will be a spiritual leader of that last age. That individual was described as the rightly guided leader. Imam means leader, Mahdi, rightly guided. And so the Son of Mary will come down before him, and he would say, here he is. This is the man you've been waiting for. This is the Messiah. History repeats itself. Positive identification. Excuse me. And number 10, we've reached 9 so far, have we? Number 10, that a fire would come out of Yemen. Is this religious symbolism? Or is this an actual fire? A fire will come out of Yemen and would drive people to their place of assembly for the judgment. But the Quran looks at all of these 10 and selects one as the key to the understanding of the last age, to the understanding of all the signs of the last age. The Quran says that surely he is the key to the subject. Who is he? He, meaning the Son of Mary, meaning the return of the Son of Mary. When Jesus comes back, that is a subject you must study. For that is a subject which commands the entire signs of the last day. If you penetrate this, you'll be able to understand all the rest. The angel Gabriel came to the Prophet alayhi salam just before he died. The angel came in the masjid in the form of a human being and asked a number of questions. And the Prophet replied, alayhi salam. And question 5 was, what are the signs of the last day? And he said, did you find the naked, barefooted shepherds, which means people with the intellectual acumen of naked, barefooted shepherds, competing with each other in the construction of high-rise buildings. So when you see the high-rise buildings being constructed all over the world, you have to be blind not to recognize you're living in the last age, not to understand that you must now grapple with the signs of the Lord unfolding in this age. And then he said, number 2, that a slave woman would give birth to her mistress. Now that one you cannot penetrate unless and until you use a methodology of interpretation of religious symbolism. But this is actual slavery he's talking about. That we may have had slavery in the past, but he's saying that there's slavery coming up. And that's the last slavery of all that's coming up in the future. That history is going to end with slavery. And when Jesus comes back, he's going to finish it. And in slavery, that slavery where people are reduced to destitution, to miserable poverty, to biting poverty in the dust, when that happens, the woman is always more vulnerable than the man. And this vulnerable slave woman would give birth to her mistress, something connected with fertility. Some women can't have babies, and therefore you would have a surrogate, and you'd pay her. It costs 70,000 US in the United States, but it's much cheaper than that in the villages of Indonesia and Bangladesh. So the slave woman would now have a womb which becomes a factory, and for 9 months, make sure you drink mineral water. You've got a first-class baby inside there. And then the baby will be born, and the baby will go first class, and Mama remains a slave. These are signs of the last day that Muslims are all familiar with. What causes the slavery? He said that the false Messiah, one of his weapons with which he seeks to take control of the world and to rule the world would be riba, usury, one form of it being money being lent on interest so that you can invest your money without any possibility of loss. You could only make a profit. No embrace of risk. And then the other form being you rip off someone, the unjust acquisition of another people's wealth, and you reduce them to poverty, permanent poverty, destitution. The Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, said something about the last stage connected with those who are permanently poor. He said, if you have land, hold on to your land. And if you have animals, hold on to your animals. And a man asked, O Messenger of God, if I have no land and I'd have no animals, they took it away from me. And they wouldn't give it back to me. What do I do? He said, sharpen your sword. So there's going to be bloodshed in the end of history. Those who are oppressed in miserable, biting poverty are going to resort to bloodshed. He said, I see harj falling on your rooftops like rain. And when a prophet talks, we better listen. So they asked, O Messenger of God, what is harj? He said, killing and slaughter. It's come. It's in the world now. There are so many more of these signs of the last day. But I got a note we have, it says 5 more minutes. Something strange will also happen in the world of women. He said that women would dress like men. So you'd see her in a jacket, in the trousers, and you'd see her sometimes with a tie, because she wants to assume the functional role of men. He said women will be dressed and you would yet be naked. And he said that people will have sexual intercourse in public like donkeys, indicating a strange preference for public sex rather than private. What a world it's going to be tomorrow. We look forward to our dialogue tonight. We hope to be enriched as we listen to each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you and good evening. I was rather hoping the Lord would return before the 16th. This is a difficult subject, and most of you who know me well know that I normally don't speak with notes. But in the interest of conciseness and time, I want to read the things I have wanting to say by way of introduction. The branch of Christian theology that deals with things like the return of Christ and the last judgment and the end of all things is called eschatology. And that comes from a Greek word eschaton, which means end. And the end is very important, isn't it? Because it's only at the end of a football match that you know who's won. When we go on a journey, we want to know there's a journey's end. And life is a journey. So we need to know that life has